Hello, my name is James Whiting. This is my Psychology Psyc A2, and it looks at the effects of stress, anxiety, and arousal, as well as team dynamics within a competitive esport. What is stress? Stress is your body's response to challenges. They can be physical or mental, as well as emotional. It occurs when you experience pressure or tension, either from internal or external sources. Stress can be categorized into main two types: eustress and distress. Eustress is considered the positive stress, while distress, sorry, is considered negative stress. Eustress is the type of stress that can motivate you and help you focus, whereas distress can cause anxiety, decrease performance, and lead to physical and mental problems. Moving down to anxiety, which anxiety occurs when you feel worried or nervous about something, as well as uncertain. It can present as physical symptoms such as a rapid heartbeat, or sweating or trembling, and also cognitive symptoms like racing thoughts or difficulty in concentrating. Like stress, anxiety can be categorized into two factors. One being state, which refers to a temporary feeling of anxiety that arises in response to a specific situation or event. It is often intense but short-lived, such as a competitive match in a game, where after that game's finished, the stress levels will drop, but while you're in it, the anxiety levels are increasing rapidly. On the other hand, is trait anxiety, which is a personality characteristic that describes a person's general tendency to experience anxiety across a more wider range of situations. People with trait anxiety often feel anxious more frequently and more intensely. So, for causes of stress, generally speaking, there are two types of reasons for stress: internal and external factors. While the first can be linked to someone's personal emotions and thoughts, the second consists of factors that stress the individual in their own environment. As an example, for internal, this could be one's criticisms about their own failure and the pressure that arises from their own thoughts about people's expectations on themselves. Whereas externals, as mentioned, it's in their own environment, and it could be things of like in place of living, if there's anything going on around there, or something like happening in the team, something more personal to them. So symptoms and causes of anxiety, uh, there are various causes of symptoms for this, but you can divide them into three. Cognitive cognitive symptoms, which is just racing thoughts, usually connected with worry and constant thoughts about negative emotions and outcomes. Somatic, which are seen as fatigue, which could be something like shortness of breath or muscle tension. And lastly, behavioral symptoms, which is more like restlessness and seeking reassurance to relieve some anxiety onto somebody else. Ranked anxiety. There's a clear difference in our emotions when we compete against other people that we may know or against other players compared to if it was a normal match against people you don't know as much. This difference in mood is known as ranked anxiety. It shows itself in the emotional stress of self expectation of one's ability and pressure to win. Those affected usually feel anxious and overwhelmed, which can affect performance and maybe them a bit mentally as well if the stresses get into them so much that can cause like lashes out. Sports science. In esports, this fear is commonly known among players who compete professionally in like championships and more professional leagues. This is also seen in competitive scenes for regular players who play to win for something. This usually happens for people who have enormous pressure to complete a single role. This can be either like clutch moments where if you do lose this situation, the team is lost, or maybe if you don't complete your role, the rest of the game is kind of stuck or put more in a loss uh, situation than potentially a win. Physical and mental symptoms are significant factors that influence the performance and concentration of the player. This can be counteracted through emotional preparation, though, such as taking a step back from the game maybe before you start playing, just so that you can be prepared for it. So, of course, these two factors affect performance, and therefore the outcome of the game is usually more significant because they can make this difference between a win and a loss. This is therefore important for the player to actively counteract stress and anxiety instead outside of the performance area. Examples to this could be motivational encouragement. Say you're playing within a team, like a pre-made team, you could come together and talk before the game, making a plan to make everyone more calm and give them more of a clear and defined way to play the game so they're not having to come up with things on the spot, causing more issues for them, which it goes into good preparation for the game or distract through other activities. Um, Personally, music works to relieve stress and anxiety, so as a way to use that, it's another thing to focus on as well as the game. When talking about performance in the esports scene, it is important to mention arousal or the effect of arousal. This means the cognitive and emotional elements that can stimulate the brain in such a way that the player's concentration and their performance increase considerably if they learn to deal with the emotion and control it. Issues like overstimulation can occur if the feeling of excitement is there for too long. It has an overwhelming effect and can tip the optimum point to be exceeded, resulting in a loss of concentration. This can be a huge impact for the team and cause a loss. For arousal, there are three main theories. As seen here, there's the drive theory, inverted U theory, and catastrophe theory. So, the drive theory, which created by Clark Hull, which suggests that the player is more aroused. The more the player is aroused, the performance will also be improved. Issues with this theory is that there's no drop-off point of the arousal, so their theory is a bit damaged in the sense of they're saying there's no way that your performance will ever drop again. And moving down is the inverted U theory, founded by Robert Yerkes and John Dodson, which says performance and arousal start low and increase together to an optimal level. This will happen usually in the game while it sticks to this optimal level, and then shows being in the graph shows decreasing down again together. This usually could be either towards the end of the game or at the end of the game. If this happening before the game ends, this can have a decrease on performance and maybe be happening because the team has got too confident and has started lacking a bit. And then lastly is the catastrophe theory, made by Jay Hardy and Arfazi. This shows that, like the like the inverted theory, the arousal and performance go up together, but the difference being there's no gradual decline. In this theory, the catastrophe theory, it shows there's just a steep drop down. If this happens before a game ends, then this can become completely damaging things to the performance, and this can also affect them mentally as well, showing that they can't consistently keep up to this great level. Over here is a Owl arousal example. Owl being Overwatch League. Using this link, you can see a game from Houston Outlaws where they continuously follow the drive theory. As after one win, they keep going to a second and a third, showing there's no decline in this situation. Maybe the decline comes later after the game's finished that you don't get to see. Maybe so maybe it should be the inverted U theory, but through the video it shows the drive theory. Going down to team dynamics. So we've got four here: environmental factors, personal factors, leadership factors, and team factors. Starting with environmental refers to the external conditions and settings in which the team operates. Starting with equipment, setups with higher tech allow for more optimal performance, such as lower latency or lower ping, which are two things that heavily affect how you play. Another is training facilities here. Teams that have got funding into training facilities create for team building, since the players will be close together, working together more, as well as rooms with minimal facilities create for minimal distractions. Moving down to personal factors, relate to individual characteristics and circumstances, of each team's members. Mental health is a big factor. Stress and anxiety, as we talked about before, as well as other mental health issues, can negatively impact a player's performance. Taking breaks from the game and seeking support systems is crucial for a player's health. Next is leadership factors. Involve in the influence of leaders within the captain, including coach, team captains, maybe even managers. A leader such as a team captain uh, can be strong and lead by example, facilitate communication, and maintain discipline. Whereas coaching a a good coach, sorry, can develop strategies, analyze opponents, and provide constructive feedback. So a team with a strong coach will also operate better because of all this extra information that you're given. Lastly, here is team factors, which relate to the dynamic and interactions within a team. Communication can be an example. Clear and effective communication is essential for coordinating strategies and making real time decisions during gameplay. Without this team bond or team trust, things like communications is a lot weaker and players do their own thing a lot more and it comes to more mistakes. On the team process now, known as Tuckman's stage of group development, the four factors describe the phases that the teams typically go through as they form, grow, and ultimately achieve their high performances. Starting with the forming, this is the initial stage where the team members are introduced to each other. Roles are unclear at this stage and are currently being decided. This is the and this is the where the team's deciding their overall goal of what they want to achieve. After is comes storming. This is known as the conflict stage. This is where the teams are starting to have troubles, such as who gets leadership and what authority, and who gets what roles. This, like I said, is known as the conflict role, but this will change within the lifetime of the group, and often when a group ends, they end here. The third point is norming. This is where the conflict is starting to be resolved, and relationships with the team members are starting to become stronger from overcoming these issues built. And then lastly is performing. This is where the team have come to the optimal amount of performance and trust and collaboration have improved. And the team is working at its peak ability at this point. Next is cohesion. Cohesion is a crucial concept that refers to how effectively group members bond and remain together to achieve goals and objectives. There are two types of cohesion, one being social, the other being task cohesion. Starting with task is a group built having individual roles, sorry, to achieve a shared goal. This can be an esports team coming together to win a tournament or a big match. This form of cohesion usually has groups built of people who aren't really close to each other but come together to achieve this final goal. Whereas the opposite being social cohesion, groups of people who enjoy being in that group create interpersonal bonds, which means they create positive relationships with each other. Going on to leadership, this is the ability to guide, influence, and inspire individuals or groups to reach a common goal. In esports, specific type of leaderships are especially effective in meeting the unique challenges of competitive gaming. Transformational leadership is a style where leaders inspire and motivate their followers to exceed their own interests for the good of the group, encouraging significant change and growth. Whereas confident leaders must have self assurance in their own ability, which can inspire the team into confidence in themselves, with a leader doing the best they
There are
can.
three types of
Usually, the
coach
team will
leadership
follow
styles
doing
as
the
well.
best they can as well.
Autocratic,
Then
which
lastly
is
is
seen as more as a
charismatic
direct
leadership,
coach,
who uses
usually making the
enthusiasm and
decisions for the
charm to
team
attract and
and not
inspire the
letting
team.
the team choose, make their own decisions as much,
And the coach kind of guiding them the way they should be. Democratic, I apologize, which uses the opinions of the teams as well as their own to make the decisions for the team and what's best for them. Then lastly is laissez-faire, which lets the team coordinate how they want, making their own decisions, only stepping in when the coach thinks they need to. A good example for the last one is Coach Thomas Wilford, who coaches the Barnsley College performance teams, allowing each team to work on their own unless he believes he needs to step in and help as well. The theories of leadership. I've got this picture here. It started with the great man theory at the top, which says the leaders are born but not created. And if you are born a good